feel like we're on like gay MSNBC or something like that with all of these like things going by. Okay, well, without further ado, it is now my great pleasure to introduce our speaker. Kimberly Banks-Brown is a perennial student in the human services profession. She possesses a passion for teaching, equipping, and empowering individuals to broader horizons and to live more fully in their higher selves. After earning a BA in music, an MBA with an emphasis on human resource management, a Master of Divinity, and another MA in leadership and teaching, Kimberly is certain that the truest, most lasting transformation occurs in community. She currently fills her time teaching elementary students, sojourning with folks who seek to deepen their capacity for awe, and working with voice students from time to time. As a musically inclined cis-gendered human who identifies as polyamorous and pansexual, she is especially delighted to be a part of Gifting Pride's Coming Out Gayla. The following quote is one of her most recent contemplations. When truth is buried, it grows. It chokes. It gathers such an explosive force that on the day it bursts out, it blows up everything with it. And that's from Emile Zola. We're going to now welcome Kimberly Banks-Brown to the stream. Hello, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm so excited. It means it's a reason to
cheers.
celebrate. Cheers.
Yes, exactly. Now, what celebratory beverage are you enjoying?
A little Prosecco, just a little bubbly, something light. Yeah.
That's good. I'm having a white wine spritzer, so it's similar. That's
yes.
Just a little something to be celebratory.
Yeah, a little something.
Oh my gosh, I love this background behind you too. Can you tell me something about this?
Well, actually, this is my dining room wall, but it says,
oh my God, I love it.
Every family has a story. Welcome to ours.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love that that's in your dining room. So that's something that you get to see and remind you every day.
Yes, because it's about stories. It's about your truthful story. And so I need to remind myself of that rather often.
Oh, I think it is really all about stories, and that can mean so many things in different times and place.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So I'm so glad you're going to be here, Eli, because I told Kat, I said, I try to reserve talking to myself for when I'm actually early in the morning or later, so in the middle of the day, I try to do it with people. So thank you for being here.
I'm so glad to be here. No, I know what you mean. It's I'm a teacher also, and teaching remotely is very odd because, when everybody's muted, you feel very much like,
yes,
hi, here I am.
Yeah. Yes.
It's weird not having that one-to-one responsiveness.
Exactly. So when I work with elementary students, so I just tell them, turn all your mics on. We're just gonna deal with it. Turn them on.
I agree. I totally agree. Because then that's real. You're like, let's have some of the messiness of life.
I was gonna say life is thick and rich and messy, and I want to hear some of that story.
I agree.
I
agree.
So I am delighted to be here. I identify as Kimberly, and I'm so excited to be a part of Gifting Pride's inaugural Gayla coming out event. Yay! And I'm just going to talk real briefly. I have some other aliases, but this is a professional. So we're gonna I'll come out later, Kat. No. So I'm gonna ask for you all to be participatory, and there is a little delay in the chat, but please do talk to me because I was raised in a Black Baptist church. And if I don't hear anybody speaking to me, even if it's in the chat, I get a little nervous. I see my sister's online. She said, hey. And so I'm glad to be here. I'm just going to try to be before you really briefly. The first thing I want to ask is for folks to put in the chat one of their favorite queer themed or queer feeling songs. Now, because, and this is going to be hard, and it should be hard, which is why we have this wonderful organization called Gifting Pride, because we don't want it to be hard. In 10 years, you want people to just be able to say, oh yeah, this and that. But right now, and I'm a teacher, and I will pause this whole event if you do not respond in the chat.
I like your style, Kimberly. I like it so much.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. You're like, I
My
can wait.
classroom management is on fleek. Okay, I will get you to go and do this.
That's right.
So please, so just put it in. So I just wanted to share initially a little bit about National Coming Out Day. It was an event that I know of, the little bit I know about it, that happened on October 11th, 1987, when I was, 14 or 15, around that time. And it was a bunch of nasty women. You know, they were the F word, feminist, and some queer folks who decided to just call what we would say a spade, and say that our personal identity is also political, and we need to just kind of embrace that. Let's just name the elephant in the room. And so as a result, October 11th became National Coming Out Day. So what, Eli, you tell me, what kind of songs do we have mentioned so far?
Definitely. We're having several. I don't know a lot of them, but I wish that I did.
Okay.
But we have Hide by Rainbow Kitten Surprise. What a wonderful name that is. Everyone is Gay by A Great Big World. We have it sounds like one called Daughter by a songwriter, Ryan Casada, who's an American trans man.
Okay.
And I don't, and either Karen or Catherine wrote somewhere anything by George Michael.
I was going to say,
George Michael.
Our allies should be all allies have gay songs. So I'm expecting our allies to say, yes, this,
I think like Lady Gaga and Madonna come to mind for me, honestly, because they just, I feel like, whatever else anybody might want to say or not, but I think like wonderful, supportive allies who brought, Madonna bringing, I don't know, Lady Gaga.
Well, back years, centuries, eons ago, there was this really straight lady who made this song, I'm coming.
Oh, exactly. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There we go. Of course.
So that was the first song I heard and thought, coming out. So
that's right.
Great.
Right.
So,
we got Donna Summers, right?
Right. We got Donna Summer, we got Diana Ross. Come on, nobody put It's Raining Men. Okay, but I digress.
Oh, there you go.
I digress.
And also, thank you for singing. You've got a gorgeous voice.
Thank you.
We got
So these folks got together and they had a march in Washington that said, my life, which is typically considered something personal, is a public. It is a political movement, and I have often felt like I wish I were an activist. I wish I were the type of person who could really bring about change, who could gather grassroots and make things happen. And I think the purpose one of the major tenets in the initial coming out day was that just living out loud is really, really excellent activism. And it's the best kind of activism because it's just you living your life. It's not you trying to convince someone else of anything else. It's just about you saying, this is who I am. I'm going to live, and I'm not going to live ashamed. I'm going to live unabashedly, as we talk a little bit, I'm going to share briefly about my story. Those who are queer, if you could type in the chat, who was the first person you came out to? And the allies here, if you could type, what is the first thing you thought when someone came out to you?
Oh, that's very good. I like that question for the allies, especially.
Yes.
I never thought about it really from that point of view.
Yes. And it's really, so speaking about allies, as we have lived in this global climate where Black and brown bodies are so publicly and brutally mutilated and murdered, one thing that has offered some hope is to see some olive bodies and some pink bodies and some tan bodies and some other bodies in those marches, to be there and to say, hey, this isn't right. If you oppress them, you oppress me. And so the role of ally is, it's invaluable. We have to have allies no matter what our cause is. And
Yes.
so I've always challenged my allies. I generally focus Coming Out Day on allies. Rarely do I focus it on queer people, because we're coming out all the time, over and over again, every day, or thinking about it, or, so.
That's actually, so can I ask you, I'm thinking about that now, because for myself, I know I've had so many moments with people who want to be allies who feel so awkward, and like they feel like they don't know what language to use, and they're very afraid of offending, and they say, and so I think it's true, like that way of focusing on them in a way of sort of like showing them how valuable they are, and be helping them find a way through the awkwardness, to sort of like, yes, you are performing this human task and this human joy of noticing that we're all different, and trying to just I don't know. I'm curious more about that.
And not only just working through the awkwardness, but to first pause and say, this is awkward.
There you go.
And to feel that awkwardness and to accept that awkwardness. Because what that awkwardness indicates is that you are on the precipice of some actual movement. We're not going to get better or grow or evolve if we don't feel discomfort. And so if we're really going to be an ally in whatever we're going to be allies, we have to accept the fact that we're going to feel discomfort. We have to accept the fact that at some point we're going to be with the people that we're really thinking we're trying to help, and we're going to say something really nutty or crazy, or
right.
And we're going to think that was crazy. But that,
right.
So what? So what?
God, it's funny because you're reminding me of a moment from my I would call it my childhood, when I was probably about 20, and I hadn't met any trans people before, and I had a summer in San Francisco, which will corrupt any youth. I remember I was talking to a trans person who was thinking of transitioning, and I was like, won't you? I said something like, won't you miss your chest or something like that, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Like, for me now as a trans person, right?
Yes.
So many years later.
Yes.
It's just so interesting, the things that you say, because you're like, I don't know.
Yes.
So it looks like some people have.
Well, that's fine. We can. If there's a question, let's do it.
Yeah, people have written a couple of things, and it looks like there are more songs that have come up. People said they came out to their partner, to ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
I haven't heard from any allies yet.
Well, I saw one ally said "Color" by Todrick Hall was her song.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yes. How can we have a coming out and not mention Toddy? No.
There we go. Oh, and we have a question that was do you want to have a question now, or
Sure,
save that for later? The question was how you got involved in the Gayla, and I guess more just about oh, this is an interesting question. This is sort of in a slightly different direction, but a question: if you could have a song written for you, what would you have it be about or for?
Oh, I forgot. I see what I mean. So I am having a song written for me.
Oh, you are? Oh my goodness! How
by
exciting.
A gifting Gayla, gifting pride artist.
Oh my goodness! Okay.
And it's for my 21st birthday.
Happy 21st birthday! Wait, you put that cocktail down then.
Well, I'm celebrating 21. You know what I'm saying? 21, and you know what I'm saying, but
yeah,
a few of them. So thank you for asking that. So I encourage anyone who wants songs. Yes, it's a great collection of artists, and to really look in there. Thank you for my birthday wishes. So I'm going to share briefly about coming out and what that was like for me. So I can recall when I was 8, I went to camp, and it was myself and my stepsister, and we were the only chocolate drops at camp. So we got there and I was having a great time and I got a crush. You know, we had camp names. And I found myself crushing on this tall, curly, blonde-haired chick whose name was Tree.
Tree.
Isn't that a beautiful name? Tree. And we just really liked each other. Now, we were 8, so we didn't know anything about crushes per se or what. All we knew was we really liked being around each other. And when we sat at the campfire, we wanted to sit so that we touched, so that our shoulders touched, you know. But Tree was also there with some of her relatives, and they really did not appreciate her wanting to spend time with a Black girl. And it's interesting when I think back to that, is in that how was that pivotal? Was it more pivotal for me as a queer child, or was it more pivotal for me as a Black child, or can I even
Right. How do you separate those?
Right. Can I separate those? And it's not a separation. And that's the way it was and has been. You know, I mentioned that I grew up in a Black Baptist church, various Black Baptist churches. And I watched queer people lead worship. And it was perfectly fine as long as you were quiet.
Oh. I see, yeah.
And so someone said, well, how did you come out, you know, and I said, well, I sent out invitations to my wedding. And they were like,
there you go.
And they said, to a man? I said, no, it was a woman. I was getting married, and then you sent out invitations. And so not necessarily like Kat, who had a totally embracive experience by most of her family and friends. But ignorance is bliss, Eli. And if you don't know that if you don't know that people have an option to accept you, then you just act as if they will. And for all, you know, the dysfunction that all families are raised in, and everybody wants to say about how their families are, so, you know, every family is crazy in some way. Sure. But I was thankfully raised in a way that made me think that, okay, I'm getting married and I'm going to invite you and you can come or not come. You know what I'm saying? So I was really grateful for that, that confidence, I guess I should say.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Now, once I sent the invitations out, I had family members who said, wow, you know, you're just too talented to spend eternity in hell. Or you're just too, you know, it's so unfortunate that I'm not going to be with you for eternity in heaven. And say some really strong things. Yeah. And it didn't stop there. You know, the church family that I was a part of, who had anointed me, I was anointed, and I was all these great things. And then I was slowly pushed out, you know, like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. And eventually, after I left, they had held a class on what to do when your relative is possessed by the homosexual demon.
Good Lord.
So,
did you attend the class?
You know, if I had known about it beforehand, you know, I would have gone. And I would have dressed up, you know, you know.
Hello, I am the homosexual demon.
Exactly. So.
Oh, but that's so sad, though. I mean, and it's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. And really what makes it even more sad is all of the queer people in churches, companies, organizations all around the globe who are okay to be what I used to say, prostituted, as long as you're okay and living in shame. And the moment you decide I'm wonderfully and fearfully made and I'm going to celebrate me, then that comes out to no, you're not. Now, you knew, and the thing about it is people know, they know who you are. They know who these people are. But as long as they were shamed, as long as they didn't tell their story, as long as they kept that truth squashed, then it was okay. But as soon as they said, I want to tell my story, then things change.
So what do you feel? Because if I'm correct, you have a master's in divinity. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how do you see your role then? As a queer person, in a faith community.
When I I tried my best not to go to seminary, but the universe was she's so persistent sometimes. And then when I went, I was like, well, I'm not going to go through the whole process, and I'm not going to get ordained and so forth and so on. But for me, it was a communal call, because not just the queer community, but everybody needs to know. For me, it was like the universe was saying, hey, you're queer, you are spiritual, you're called to empower and shepherd people. So don't go through the back door, go through the front door and become ordained. I was the first out Black queer person ordained in my city.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, but also got to be a little bit of a vulnerable place to be in, to know that you're, sort of like alone up there in a way.
It is vulnerable. It's interesting. When you are on the margins, when you are a marginalized person, vulnerability, exposure, danger, it kind of becomes second nature. And that's unfortunate, because you don't always know how to practice the self-care that's needed to sustain yourself through that.
Yeah,
but thankfully sense. I have had a tribe, and my tribe consists of people with whom I share a biological connection, and those with whom I don't. But I have always had a tribe where I felt like as long as I can be in the center, and I've got a few people that can make a circle around me, then I can maneuver through. And if I had to say to anybody who is newly coming out or considering to come out, is to do that. Find out who your tribe is. And that doesn't mean that they understand or they agree. But one thing I try to be very clear about is it's not my place to agree with you, the choices you make in your life, because it's your life. And it's not your place to agree with the choices that I make in my life, because it's my life. What we need to decide is if we share enough core values to call one another tribe. Do we value inclusivity? Do we value curiosity? Do we value compassion? Do we value music? What are the core values that bind us together? And that's what keeps us together through, because there'll be things that we just can never understand about one another, So, and much like someone shared, I can't remember in their coming out, but they shared that eventually they had family members who came and apologized and said things, as did I. However, that was yes, Kat said that, who said family members came, and I had some to come and say, wow, and you have to meet people where they are. Like someone said to me, I can't wait to meet you in glory. Okay. Which was the person who had once said, too bad I won't get to see you there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm grateful for my journey. And people ask, why come out? But before I say this, let me respond to something that Kat said. Kat was saying that her cousin outed her and other people outed her. And I have to say that people comment on what they see in me as authenticity or openness or things like that. And I didn't quite understand that, especially in my early years. I'm 21. So when I was like 9 or 10, excuse me, get yourself together. Okay. When I was earlier.
I'm only laughing because I know you're really 25.
Yes, I know, but shh.
Yeah, sorry.
So I didn't really understand, because it was just kind of like who I was, right? But in that, there were people that I outed and I didn't even know that I outed them. You know, like we would go to functions that were predominantly queer functions and people would be there with their partners. And so we would be out and I may see them at something else and I say, hey, how are you? How's your wife doing? How's your partner doing? And people were just like petrified.
Shoot, yeah.
And I'm kind of slow, right? So I'm like, I'm thinking they must have got divorced. You know, like that's the first thing that comes to mind. But the reality is they were out in that time with me because they were other queer people, but out in the world, they were not out. And everyone has to decide how much of their selves they share. One of my favorite passages is, do not cast your pearls before swine or give what is holy unto the dogs. And so we all have to determine how much of ourselves that we share with others. But as a queer person and as an ally, just keep in mind that we have to be okay to ask questions and we have to be okay to answer questions. Because while it wasn't my intent to out anyone, like it happened nonetheless. And you mentioned, how do we deal with that awkwardness? And we deal with it by saying, this is awkward. So let me ask you this. Are you out at work? Are you out to your family? Are you out, or so that we can kind of protect people's process as much as we can? And then for the queer person to understand that although we have been targeted, although we have been excluded, although we have been isolated, not everything is an attack. People just we're humans and we do human things and we have an amygdala and we get nervous and sometimes things come out that we didn't know were going to come out, or sometimes we were going to say all this great stuff, you know, and then our prefrontal cortex shuts down and we just are just kind of sitting there. And so we have to share our stories and we have to receive other stories with grace. You know, we have to do those things with grace. So I wanted to say that. And then I'm going to say one other thing, and then I'm going to stop talking because I've been trained to talk my whole life. So
I'm enjoying listening to you talk. That's great. I could just hang out.
So people say, so why come out? Okay, this is so cool for me. So I do believe that salvation is found in community. And for me, salvation is realizing that you are the universe aware of itself. And there is no greater expression of divinity. Like that is salvation for me. And that for me cannot occur in isolation. Okay. So if it weren't for community, I wouldn't be here. So why come out? Is it worth the risk? Well, I could be a person. I could be a person and I could go to work and I could do what I do without living out loud. But how would I be fully alive? And I like to liken it to the essential vitamins that our body is required. So we have bodies that need vitamins, but our bodies don't make those vitamins. You know, and we don't get enough vitamin C, you know, we get scurvy. We don't get enough vitamin D, you know, we get low iron. We don't have enough. Vitamins are essential. And the way that we get those essential vitamins is because that's how we feed ourselves. We feed ourselves the nutrients that we need to be optimally strong. Okay. And for me, that's why I choose to perennially come out, is because connection is necessary for life, because I need my community to feed me. I can't be my fullest self. I can't be my highest self if I don't have a tribe, if I don't have a community that feeds me the nourishment that I need. And And the thing about it is people say, I've heard queer people say, well, people love me and they don't know that I'm queer, or people love me and they don't know that I'm polyamorous, or people love me and they don't know that, I'm whatever. But just think about, some vitamins are water soluble and some are fat soluble, right? And so let's say, yeah, if you take in the water soluble vitamins, the nutrients from your community who don't know who you are, they feel you, they give you. But what about the fat soluble? What about the ones that need some substance? What about the ones that says, you know who I am in my entirety, and therefore I can trust when you say you love me. You know who I am in my entirety, therefore I can trust when you say you have my back. And so coming out is not for anybody else in the world but for me. As an educator, it's important for me that my colleagues, that my students know that I am a queer person, because I don't do very good at filtering. I think I had a stroke in utero, and so I don't have the ability to do a lot of filtering. And so I'll say something in a minute, not because it's just, and then I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have, I didn't know. And it's too much stress for me to live in a closet. I'll be like that quote. I will explode if you try to oppress who I am. And so as a person who identifies as queer, understand that whatever your process is and whatever your rate of speed of your process, that is for you. And to the allies, understand that when someone comes out to you, they're not looking for your approval. They're not looking for your understanding. They are just looking for your energy and your attention, because salvation comes in community, because it takes someone else to say, I see you. That's Avatar. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite movies. I see you. That's all they're looking for you to say is, I see you. And if that's all you can say, that's fine. And as you can grow and say more, great. But if you can just say, I see you, and give them an embrace, then that empowers them and equips them in being able to continue.
Oh, I think that's so beautiful. There's so many things you said that before I give you a couple of questions from people that I just want to emphasize. First of all, I love that talking about like fat as substance and that fat soluble vitamins, like in so many ways, just that idea of like, who are we in our entirety? Who are we fully? What sticks? And I think that's just such a wonderful, resonant, and also like body positive way of like sort of shifting the emphasis and being like, it's just there's so much richness and depth there. I love it.
Thank
and
you.
I also that thing of just wanting to be seen, because I can remember that idea of that's happened a couple times, of coming out to people and them saying, I accept you, and me being really confused after that, and I couldn't quite put the words to why. But you're right, because it's like, I'm not actually looking for your approval, like, I'm just telling you my truth. It's not like, because I feel like people almost think that we can't exist unless people approve of us existing. But we exist. Like, we're not like little like imaginary like Tinkerbells that only exist if enough people say, I believe. That's not true. Like, we're real. Like, I'm not gonna disappear just because you don't believe that I'm here.
Exactly.
And so
what I'm doing is gifting you with my story.
Right. Exactly.
And you can honor it or not. But
it's like, I'm still here. I'm not going there. I think that's so wonderful, and I think you're right. Just the energy and the attention, and just noticing, and that's that idea of our communities, and the richness that we give to each other, and that's real diversity, of just seeing that mosaic and seeing that we have this person and that person, and letting it all rise to the surface. So beautiful. I'm seeing people who are curious to know more about your background. And more about yeah, just wanting to know more about how you came to be, and so I think anything that you want to riff on with that would be interesting for people. Richness that we give to each other. Oh, now there's a weird echo.
Sorry, I think that was me.
There are too many
when
Eli's.
you start talking about how I came to be, all the ancestors start ascending. They were like, wait a minute, we gotta.
Probably, yes.
How I came to be.
Well, just people asking about your background. So I guess anything else you want to, whatever that leads you to.
Well, I was raised a poor white child. No, okay. I'm sorry, it's one of my favorite movies from The Jerk. So I call myself a love child because I am the product of two very deep people who were teenagers and in love, and I came about. So I am the original 70s love child. Not that I was born in the 70s, but I just relate to that decade.
No, because you were born in 1999, I think.
Yeah, 99. But my approach to life, I identify as an evidential mystic. Meaning that, so both my mother and my sister are chemists, right? And my father was an attorney. And so logic and reason and all of that is a big part of who I am. I'm also a musician and a pastor and a teacher. So I also have to believe that there's some mystery or something out there. And so through the course of, I started teaching the Bible when I was 12, which is way too young to teach Bible, and continued to do that, continued to teach. I got in the mental health field. I worked in mental health for a while. And so what really solidified in me was going to seminary and understanding and finding community with people who believed in something mystical, something magical, something miraculous, but did not have to forfeit their intellect to do so. And so I feel like that's why for me, salvation comes in community. It's because it was in community that I was able to come up with this kind of eclectic, like you all, an eclectic group of musicians. My constructive theology, constructive anthropology, however you want to call it, it's just pretty eclectic. But I've always worked in fields that dealt with people because I am an introvert and I feel called to be in community with people. I feel called to create spaces and more importantly, to hold spaces where people can explore and question who they are and then discover that and then learn how to celebrate that and then learn how to honor that and then learn how to share that. And so that's why being asked to do this, just so weird. Like this was such a serendipitous event. I'm somewhere trying to pretend like I don't have motion sickness in the mountains and I'm trying to enjoy all the fall foliage. And I get a call from Karen, the founder of Gifting Thrive.
Okay.
And she's like, hey, we have a mutual friend. We've met. Karen and I actually met once a few years back. And she's telling me about this event. And I couldn't quite catch. I was like, so what is it? So what? And how, I'm a little slow. I told you I'm a little slow. But the idea that this just happened just so serendipitously. And it's just a reminder for me that if we're quiet and still and open, that the universe will show us the path that we're supposed to take. And if we have that tribe where we can share our truthful stories, then we will be equipped with the courage and the passion and the skill necessary to follow that path.
Oh, that's beautifully said. Really, 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 really wonderful. So what are you so right now is your primary focus on education right now, or can you even say what your primary focus in your life is right now?
My primary focus right now is self-care.
Okay.
Uh,
That's very, very important.
I approach everything in life now through that lens.
Okay.
I do teach elementary students. And after spending years in leadership positions, in different vocational leadership positions, and even in pastoral leadership positions, of which I enjoy, I love leadership and those things. But I'm now at a place in my life where I get to share my experience, I get to share my mistakes, I get to share my perspectives with people as they travel, as they journey along. And so I spend a lot of my time, um, as I said, sojourning with people. I do. I don't like to call it spiritual direction. I'm not direct. Please do not take my direction. Whatever,
Hmm.
whatever you do, do not take my direction. But if you need, somebody to catch you when you do your trust fall, if you need someone to hold some space that for that discomfort that you're going to experience as you evolve, then I feel honored to do it. And I feel like I'm living into my highest self to do it. And I feel that then once I leave that space, then I'm engaged. I'm empowered to go and do what else I need to do.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I was just reading this wonderful comment that someone left in the thread that said, I always think when people say, quote, I don't believe in, and they follow it with something like homosexuality, like when they say they don't believe in psychotherapy, I laugh because a person's sexuality doesn't require the belief or acceptance of another in order to exist.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's wonderfully said.
Yes.
I just see a lot of people in the chat
Yes.
just basically saying yes and agreeing,
Yes.
and Logan saying, you are the universe aware of itself, so beautiful. With some new comments. Yeah, so just lots of really wonderful support and love
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
through from
That's
everyone.
great. Yeah.
And I'm thinking about something you were just saying, and I was thinking about those dandelions behind you. Just that idea of those thoughts, being spread out into the world,
Mm,
and just
mm,
that beauty
yeah.
too of these small seeds traveling around.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I love my life, Eli.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I do.
fantastic.
I do.
Well, we're so incredibly happy to have you with us,
It's been
and
my
so
pleasure.
so glad that you could join us today. And it's been wonderful. Yeah, wonderful, and I feel like you've just given us so many wonderful little gems of joy and wisdom. So
And
I
I just
appreciate
thank
it.
you all for being here, and I thank you for being here so that this was 45 minutes where I didn't have to talk to myself. And so that's
Oh, of
good.
course. It's been a pleasure.
Mine
It's
as
been
well.
it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure. And I think what's going. I'm just gonna check our schedule. I think what's going on next is we've got just a couple minutes, and then we're gonna start our trivia.
Mm.
So if everyone wants to take a few minutes to maybe bone up on their LGBTQIA plus trivia. Um, oh, and we had another beautiful. What does Theo say? He's paraphrasing, but there's something around the lines of, "To be still and let the universe open its path for you." Some
I see.
peace like a river. Something like that from a favorite church song that he was
Uh-huh.
reminded of.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, so oh, and we also I guess I'll just say a couple things while we again thank you, Kimberly, so much
Sure.
for being with us, and
Thank you.
and we're gonna now we have counselors standing by, as always. If anybody needs somebody to talk with, we have two volunteers. There's some phone numbers down there that you can see. If there are other questions for Kimberly, please feel free to put them into the thread, or if they come in at a later point, we'll try to get them to her because I think she's just a wonderful source of wisdom and help. and then we're gonna have our trivia in a few minutes. And so for our trivia, let me just look over what our so if you you can register and donate at least $10, then you can participate in our trivia. If you want to participate anyhow, you can. We just won't give you any prizes. But, you know, that's just the way it goes. But the trivia is really fantastic. So uh, so
Well,
that's
I'm gonna go and study up for that trivia.
okay. Good, good, good,
Thank
good. You
you
should do
so
that.
much.
Thank you
It's
so
been
much for being here
great.
with us, and I'll
Cheers.
give you another cheers.
Yes, cheers.
Yes, wonderful.
Okay, great. Namaste.
Thank you so much.